Okay. Yeah, hi there. Good morning. Kelvin MacKenzie here. Another great show from Mike Graham, and whose numbers are hitting records almost every day. So where are we now? There are a couple of things that I feel uneasy about. I feel uneasy about what's happening, what the polls are showing in relation to reform. Look, there's no doubt that they're in a period of unease. I don't blame people feeling, that they feel unsure about what the future looks like when the leader is quite blithe about accepting 5 million quid. I have urged in pieces and on air that I believe that Nigel should pay the £5 million back. He has not told me to get stuffed, but he's told everybody else to get stuffed. And on that basis, I'm afraid we are watching, I think, a bit of a decline. Most of the people I speak to who would be natural reform voters say two things. One, that the public don't care. Well, I see their polling in one of the polls is at 24%, which I think is fantastic, actually, in the light of all the negativity. And also the fact that the whole of the mainstream media has now become Burnhamified. This is a moment in time. A year from today, it won't look like this. But right now, I'm afraid the political parties just got to put up with it. But if, for instance, we get ourselves in the bizarre position where Nigel stands next to Binface and Mr. Fishfinger and everything like that, those pictures are unhelpful. Let's say he wins at Clacton. Let's say that the parliamentary party kind of investigation committee come back and say, look, that 5 million is enormously unhelpful, especially in the light of the fact that you now have a policy which is going to help the person who gave you the 5 million quid. Let's just say they said that. I think that becomes a serious issue because it won't be 10 days he'll be banned for. I suspect he'll be banned for 3 months, possibly even 6 months, 6 months of it. Now, actually, Nigel will quite like that because he can just go and earn a lot of money working on GB News. And actually, he does a bloody good show on GB News. However, it kind of devalues reform. And for reform voters, they haven't got anywhere else to go. The reason that they're voting reform is because they want to secure our borders. No other party is offering to secure the borders. And secondly, they came from Labour and they came from the Tories. They don't want to go back again. So reform and the voters find themselves in a difficult position. I would just simply say to Nigel, take it on the chin, take the 6 months off and come back again. And in that 6 months, what would happen was that the Burnham burnish will have disappeared. But these are tough times for people who've gone to reform. People tell me that that they feel that they have nowhere else to go. I kind of buy that. So until the Tories start saying they're going to secure our borders, there's not going to be an easy place for a reform voter to go to. Anyway, joining me now, Mike Graham. Hi, Mike.
Morning.
So there's two things that caught my eye. I thought that I was just told by Pooch, who should do a show. It'll be a 1 hour show.
Yeah.
The maddest man in Britain.
Yeah.
Why I won't travel on state transport.
Yeah.
Why I'm obsessed with those plastic water bottles. I have to tear the cap off.
Yeah.
And apparently the cap is only constrained because the EU don't want caps being left all over.
It's true, but occasionally you can still get a cap that isn't constrained like that.
Oh, have you?
Which is weird. I don't know how that...
On wine bottles, I suspect.
Wine bottles, yes. But also other water. I've bought water bottles in the past where it's not the case. So this one,
Yeah.
right?
That's the only brand I buy.
So there you go. Look.
Well, of course, we're not members of the EU. We don't have to do it.
So how are these guys getting away with it, and the other people having to tether it in some
Perhaps
way?
Perhaps you're being charged more or less on the basis of that cap.
Possibly. I mean,
because do you ever check what the price of water is?
only occasionally.
Yeah.
Only occasionally.
So at some places you can kind of play £1 and 10 pence, £1.50.
£1.99. I've seen it in Pret.
Okay, £2.20, £2.
I'm not paying more than £2 for water.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm not doing it. But I agree with you. Also, his hatred of cheese is a fascinating one as well.
But he's only got to mention this stuff on air.
Yeah.
And suddenly there will be a load of nutcases like him.
Yeah, they will be, yeah.
Yeah, all of whom are as totally...
Well, he shares a particular curiosity with the mother of my children who can't stand the sound of anybody eating. No. He can't stand it. I go to Sussex, right, and she tells me to be quiet while I'm eating.
Hold on.
At the dinner table.
Hold on 1 second. We've lost the... We've actually lost...
Oh.
Have we lost audio as well?
Do you know, I had this in my telly yesterday. I managed to something to do with the heat. I put the TV on and I could hear it, but there was no picture.
There we go.
Oh, right. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, welcome back.
Yeah.
Can I just say that's one of the joys of hold on, it's just gone again. One of the joys of startups is this kind of thing, right, in which nobody cares.
They don't mind.
Right? And actually, my advice to Holly Willoughby, who's been pretty much a disaster, but you could have forecast that.
Well, not only did I forecast it, I did my meltdown on it today. Because have you seen the coverage in The Sun today?
Yeah,
she's on the front page. She's on pages 12 and 13, right? Both, they're all going, isn't it amazing? She only just started the show. She's got 8,000 followers. What? 8,000? Why are they...
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Holly Willoughby alert.
Go on then. Lembe, here comes Lembe.
Come on.
Lembe. There we go.
Yeah, it's finished.
Right, that's it.
So where's the spread on my show? You know, I've got...
and by the way, you were a loyal employee.
I was.
She's just a Johnny-come-lately.
It was pointed out to me that her husband happens to be a rather powerful agent called Dan somebody or other.
I think he's a TV producer who does all right on mainstream telly.
That's what I mean. But
this is a different...
But he's presumably said to them, you know, if you do this, you know, help out Holly here, I'll get you this or that or that. You know how it works, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
So I imagine that's why they've given her a spread in 12 and 13. Rod McPhee, the TV editor, has written this, you know, sort of hagiography of Holly Willoughby's crap show. Because it is crap, I'm sorry to say that, and I'm sure she's a very nice woman, but it's rubbish, right? It's like this morning without the TV signal. That's all it is. Let's talk about food and let's have here's Stanley Tucci. Oh, look, he's great, isn't he? Some dungarees.
Yes,
Why don't you suggest that you go on there?
Yeah.
Because that would have one enormous effect, I think. The audience would collapse. And
you know, I can tell you a story about Holly Willoughby, right?
Hold on, there we go.
Right.
Holly Willoughby.
Holly Willoughby story.
I
was once at London Bridge Station.
Yeah.
And I was on
she
my
saw
way.
you and walked in the other way.
No, I was on my way to where I then lived, which was down near Hastings, and I'd finished my show at TalkSport.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was a very elegant and tall-looking woman sort of standing further down the platform with those, you know, those Louboutin shoes.
Oh, very nice. With red, right? And all that.
With the red, so you notice the red soles, right? Yeah.
Well, I've been given the Louboutin by a number of women.
I'm sure you have, yeah.
Thanks very much.
I can tell you another.
I'm here all week.
There's a funny Robert Johnson story about that as well, but I'll come back to that. So I see these shoes and this very tall woman and a very short bloke with her. Short, like literally half her height, who I think later I identified as her agent. Turns out it was Holly Willoughby, right? So I got this train, and the train that goes to Hastings stops at a number of places, you know, including Sevenoaks, Tunbridge Wells,
it does.
blah, blah, blah. Where it doesn't stop, however, is Hildenborough, which is another part of that part of the world.
Don't tell me it stopped at Hildenborough.
It stopped at Hildenborough.
Not to let her out.
let her off.
No.
I am not joking. The train obviously was ordered to stop at Hildenborough to let her off.
That's disgraceful.
Isn't it?
On the 8:32 from Weybridge this morning was cancelled due to a shortage of train crew.
Of course.
Okay, so let's get this right. They make 80 grand for a 4-day week.
Yeah.
Why don't they halve that money and just get some of these desperate youngsters, right, who are fresh out of university?
My son would do that. My son would take a job tomorrow.
At 40 grand?
40 grand.
For a 4-day week?
Yeah.
Fine. And
Absolutely.
by the way, the other aspect, they can't join a trade union. Smash ASLEF.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the... Okay. I did notice a tweet from you.
Yeah.
I know this guy. that there was a Labour spad who often appeared on GB News, and he often appeared actually on the Michelle Dewberry show.
Oh, yeah.
And I go on there every Thursday, and he was the Labour side, and he has just pleaded guilty to
Matthew Talbot.
Talbot, £6,000 worth of accommodation and rail fare fiddling.
Expenses fiddling.
He was saying he was going somewhere on business, but in fact he was going there for whatever other reason. Now I thought you were a little bit dismissive of him as a person.
Oh, really?
Well, what do you mean? Oh, really? It's a tweet.
What do you mean? Why dismissive?
Well, people can commit criminality without them being necessarily totally bad, can they?
Yes, I don't suggest that he's totally bad. Oh, right. I just suggest that he's a bit sanctimonious. And he's a man who put himself out there as this great sort of, formerly homeless, recovered alcoholic, now got a family, whiter than white, lovely bloke. One of the reasons that you might find I have a view of him is that I asked him to come on my show,
and he refused,
as he used to, and he didn't answer my message.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, he come on now. He'll come on now, shortly before. Do you think he's likely to go to
come on now? He can put the old prisoner's garb on, and I'll be more than happy.
Yes.
Striped pyjamas.
Will he get jailed for that, do you think?
Probably not. I mean,
I would have thought £6,000 in that area.
I mean, to be honest, the amount of stealing that goes on in the public sector, I mean, he's literally scratching at the old surface there, I mean, look at what's going on in number 10 North, for heaven's sake. The amount of money that's going, south.
I love the idea it's called number 10 Coronation Street.
I love that. Yeah.
It's a very clever one, which is almost as clever as the one that Pooch told me, that there's some Saudi Arabian women's football team, and they have to wear this kind of half hijab kind of thing.
Right.
And
who's taking the corners?
And but the British fans who are watching this game are all shouting out. What are they shouting out, Pooch?
Get your face out for the lads.
Get your face out for the lads.
Yes, that was a Millwall thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
they played. It was at Millwall. They played it because they not only did they play the game, right? They played it at Millwall.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and you're going, what? Have you got, of all the places, of all the, the gin joints in all the world.
Can I just point out, we've got Jean Hatchett coming up shortly.
She's
Who's
great.
Quite a very tough lady
She's
from
lovely.
Sheffield.
Yeah, brilliant.
And any suggestion of misogyny, I think she might come round and kick your rear end.
Jean also is a realist, and she doesn't mind a bit of mild misogyny.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Mild misogyny.
Mild misogyny's all right with her.
Bit of mild.
Okay. What she doesn't like is the pro-Palestinian lot who are constantly giving her grief.
Does she actually get grief from them?
Yeah, she got attacked by them. She went up to them because they were going round in Sheffield. The reason we got to know her was in Sheffield there was a bunch of these pro-Palestinian tossers knocking on people's doors.
Oh, that's right.
Asking them if they would support a boycott of Jewish goods or Israeli goods. And she started filming them, and the guy went up and gave her a slap.
No. What, physically a slap?
Yeah, physically.
And is that guy now being charged?
Well, I don't know. You could ask her about it. Attacked her partner as well.
Oh, right.
So you can ask her about that. I don't know.
This is one of the... Okay, we're going to deal with this. But so there were two reactions, public reactions, to the killing on the Pride March by that Islamist terrorist.
Yeah.
In this country, first of all, there's a woman called, as you know, Kate Osborne, who nobody had ever heard of, by the way, MP for Gateshead since 2019, actually married to a woman, and they've got 2 kids. Okay, so it's big LGBT.
Yeah, trans ally, I think she calls herself.
Trans ally. Okay, fine. So she comes out and she blames GB News and Reform for this attack. No mention, by the way, no mention of the Muslim aspect to it, i.e. the reason it happened.
Well, Sky TV did a whole report that night on from Berlin with this woman who was in situ, who was a reporter, I don't know her name, who was banging on about, it was a meeting, people were here celebrating love it's awful that, this hate has come into part. No mention at all of the fact the guy was a member of ISIS.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That is
I
absolutely.
tweeted about that as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I obviously have to keep up with you on
You
that.
obviously missed that one.
Yes. No. I enjoy going out on Saturday night. It's an old-fashioned idea. Anyway, so the other one was Stonewall.
Yeah.
So Stonewall say any kind of violence is to be abhorred.
Yeah.
Any kind of, so you should point out that as in a good piece written by Jean Blindell in the Mail today.
Yeah.
In the Middle East, off the end of buildings, if you're gay, in places like Iran, it's still got the death penalty.
Yeah.
They've still got the death penalty in Saudi Arabia for it all. At the very least, you're going to get a knock on the door and off to jail for a period of time.
Yeah.
There's no mention at all that you thought, look, if you're powerful like an MP, you should use that power correctly and with analysis.
And
it is
responsibly,
not GB News. GB News, give them their credit, as you'd expect in any television station. There are quite a few members of the gay community within GB News.
And by the way, so does Reform have an awful lot of gay members as well. Why wouldn't you? But the point is this, right? Also on Sky that night, I was quite outraged actually by it. They interviewed a guy who was a Berlin councillor, who was from the LGBT community. He started blaming Donald Trump for the attack. And you're going, sorry? He said, hatred around the world, this is the problem, it started in America, Donald Trump started it. And I'm kind of going...
What about the hatred in the Middle East and any other Muslim country towards the gay community? In Israel, they have a massive, as you might expect, a massive kind of gay community and pride marches. Why? The biggest in the area. Why? Because everybody from the area, from the whole wider area, know they can go to Israel and they're not going to face the problem. I mean, if you said to Iran, look, I'll tell you what, would it be all right if we have a pride march in Tehran, right? What would happen? No, the entire lot would be rounded up.
Be shot.
And they might be shot, or they would certainly face some terrible area. Right, Mike, thank you very much indeed.
So,
good numbers today?
Yeah, very good numbers today.
Okay, good for
just
you.
an update from a friend of mine who knows young Mr. Torbett, who said, it was very weird yesterday. He was posting on Twitter while he was pleading guilty. Like it was a normal Monday.
No, is that true?
I've just had that.
No, that is absolute. Well, I'm going to get him on because obviously, if he's got something to say, we should get him on, shouldn't we?
You should. Maybe he'll come on your show. He wouldn't come on mine.
Oh yeah, well he liked me.
Does he?
You see, the voice of reason.
Oh well, that'll be it then.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. People getting quite carried. Let me tell you, if you worked with these nutters, you would know this is the voice of reason. The founder of the company is off his chump, right? He is completely bloody barley. I have to come in every day to discover he hates cheese, won't go on public transport because he's going to nut somebody, has a problem with water bottles that can't easily be taken off, has an anger management issue that Rupert Murdoch would approve of, right?
You're fired, mate.
Yeah, you're out. You're out. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, mate. We're going to go to somebody with some brains now.
Excellent.
So I was really, I tell you what, I was astonished rather than upset at a MP, Miss Osborne, MP for Gateshead. Before she became an MP, by the way, she spent 25 years in the Royal Mail, which may or may not account for the fact that the letters were never delivered. But I think the other aspect to it was, I imagine her leaving party was probably one of the smallest leaving parties in the history of the Royal Mail. I mean, they probably very, very pleased to see Miss Osborne go. But what upset me, and this is why we got Jean Hatchett coming on. Now, Jean is, she and I would be on different sides of the political discussion, but she is a fierce advocate for her community and worries, I think, like me, that when an MP starts saying that it was GB News was the reason behind the attack by that Islamist in Berlin and or Reformer were responsible for it, that actually we're not focusing on what the real issue was, that this was a Muslim attack. Joining me for this discussion, always pleased to see him, is Lembit. Hi there, Lembit.
To see you. I'm shocked that you describe yourself as the voice of reason.
The
world's gone mad already.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I am the voice in here, by the way. I'm the least person described as nutcase of the millennium.
Weird is relative.
Yeah, you're quite right. Well, that's right. I'm balanced. I like to supply some balance in here on the right. Okay, is there? Oh, hi there, Jean.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning, morning. So there were two things that upset me really. One was Kate Osborne. She, I can't understand why she'd want to say that. And the other one was Stonewall, because Stonewall said all violence is to be abhorred, right? You would have thought, why? I know you're not at the centre of LGBT activism in one sense, and you are in another. Why is it that they skirt around the issue? Why don't they simply say it is wrong that a minority of the Muslim community, and I'm not sure how small the minority, take homosexuality to be something which can be attacked? Why don't Stonewall actually say something? Why does this MP believe that that's a good idea to blame ridiculous people like Reform or GB News?
I've got absolutely no idea. I mean, I'm in a same-sex relationship and I appear on GB News all the time. They are a very, very fair platform. I've spoken for them for years on a variety of feminist issues. And I think part of the problem here is that they're all very fearful. The hard left, and I will call them the hard left, are really, really fearful of naming the problem. And the problem here in this specific instance, and also in Paris, where a guy said, Allah told me to do this.
Yeah.
Targeting women, targeting gay people, targeting Jews are all part of an extremist Islamic agenda. And they are afraid to say this. And part of the reason they're afraid to say this is because their support comes from hard left people who are funding them in the case of Stonewall, or voting for them in the case of Osborne. So, and the other thing is, I often, a lot of people from the gay community are sick of pride too. They wouldn't go and attack it. And I think that's really important to say, that the co-opting of the LGB cause, adding on the T and the Q and the 1,000 other letters that, seem to be accumulating daily, really we object to that, because trans is an identity, it's not a sexuality. So, those things also are why a lot of these people come out so wildly unable to talk about Islam. They don't really want to discuss the fact that LGB issues have been co-opted by the trans, and it's just all put into one big box with the pro-Palestinian cause, and all of it needs to avoid mentioning that extremist Islamists are a real threat to the UK. And West Streeting has come out and said that there's going to be armed policing of the largest pride in the UK, which is Brighton and Hove. And he has managed to do entire press interviews without saying what the threat is. Why is there suddenly an enhanced threat? Because who's that coming from? It's not coming from, I'm called a TERF, I suppose. I'm against the trans inclusion in LGB issues. And, there'll be some TERFs turn up and say, we object to this. This is no longer representative of our community. They're not going to go and attack it. They're not going to get machetes out of a car. This was a completely different threat, and named the problem. The problem was Islamic attitudes towards gay people. So it's infuriating that they won't name the problem.
Right. And
sorry, ranted.
So if we look at the far left, what have the far left got in common apart from votes with Muslims? What is it? Is it as simple as that? That if the far left said anything about the Muslims would then desert them as MPs, and they wouldn't be MPs at the next election? Is it as simple as that?
I think it's part of the reason, and I think sometimes there's this understanding, I think, amongst some of these real extremist left-wing activists, that they are on the side of good and they are moral and they are better than other people, and so they package these causes together, and there they go, they're a good person. And Calvin, I still consider myself left-wing, just not this. Well, actually, I don't know, because these days I think so many people are going, well, I disagree with this, but I also
Yep.
don't like this,
Yep.
and so pick and mix politics are becoming ever more attractive to people like me who, I won't put up with this prescriptive pro-Palestinian lobby nonsense. And so then I get thrown over to the far right, which I'm definitely not. And then I don't agree with, saying men are women, because they're not. And so I'm over to the far right again. I've been thrown to the far right so many times, I'm dizzy,
It's a very good point.
So,
Could I bring in Lembit on this and continue conversation, because that point that you make about pick and mix politics turns out to be 100% true, because the polling now shows that the country is now moved towards Byrne. I mean, he's basically been everywhere for 10 days, and people have moved with where the publicity is. It's moved against reform, and Jean points out she doesn't know where to go. I suspect you've been told where to go, but,
by you sometimes.
and Pooch, he definitely doesn't know where to go, because so there's this constant churn now. We haven't seen this kind of churn in our lifetime.
You're dead right. I was a Liberal Democrat when the party was liberal and democratic.
Yeah.
And I stayed where I was and watched this Liberal Democrat group just become part of the Uni Party.
Yeah.
It moved away from me.
Yeah.
And I think Jean's right. And you're right. The old, quite clear divisions have gone. I think the left-right thing's vanished. Everybody says they're pro-free market and so on, even though Rachel Reeves did the exact opposite and pretty much wrecked our economy. I think the problem now is it's all more about freedom versus authoritarianism. It's about whether you're going to be told what to do by the politicians or whether they give you the space to live your life. Now, Jean's also right about the tokenism. It's really bothering me because why do we spend so much time talking about sexual identity, sexual politics? And most people don't think about it all the time, but it's almost like the key to life itself. So some people like Jean, it's got so extreme. People like Jean, who should be actually one of the doyens of tolerance, are told that they're intolerant. Classic line, you get accused of it, so do I. Far right. It's just ridiculous. And so I think there's a void. And the debate between the parties is an interesting thing, but people are hoping Burnham's going to try and sort this out. There's a totally different debate whether he can or not. The people want some clarity. And at the moment, we haven't got it.
Fine. Let me ask you, Jean, about Stonewall. I just couldn't understand. We haven't got their statement, but I read their statement last night. There was, we're all against violence in any form and all the rest of it, right? Within Stonewall, they were very careful, that statement from the chief executive, enormously careful that the word Muslim, Islam, or any suggestion that you could read into it, a criticism of whoever was responsible for it, it wasn't. It was a statement saying we're against violence. No shit, Sherlock. Really? Really? Gay charity against violence? Well. Can you imagine? Imagine the old director of comms, the CEO invites them in. You're the director of comms, right? Could I ask you, Mr. Director of Comms, whether we could just put in there that some pig of an Islamic terrorist, right, attacked perfectly innocent people who were enjoying their day out and their sexuality for the day? Can we just say what it is, please?
No. This company will say we're in favour of violence. We're in favour of violence wherever we can find it. This is the thing. I learned a long time ago, if the opposite doesn't make sense, then the original statement doesn't make sense either. Right. Too many pensioners are living in poverty. Okay, how many pensioners should live in poverty then? And you hear this kind of, West Street thinks terrible at this. For too long, too many people have suffered in a terrible way. Let's all sing Kumbaya and go home.
Yeah, I couldn't understand, by the way, why has he joined in on this? By the way, is he allowed to? I'd be astonished if West Streeting's still in office at Christmas. He's already threatened to resign if
On the first day?
He's only. Can you imagine him come in? I'm going to hold a press conference. Oh yeah, what are you going to say? I'm going to tell that tosser of a prime minister that unless he gives me the money, I'm resigning. Actually, I'm Burnham. I'm thinking we should get rid of that dick. He's not having one single penny. He'll be gone by Wednesday, right? Can you imagine that? All getting together. Why would he say? I think he used the expression disaster, didn't he? Look, it was terrible. Honestly, 7-7, a disaster. Manchester Arena, a disaster. I think the killing of the 2 Jews in Manchester, Bolton, Manchester Way, to me, that was a disaster because that really meant for every Jew in the country, they felt threatened. Yeah, a disaster. Honestly, this was a long way away. It was terrible, I agree. By the way, had it been Nice, where that guy killed 83, right? By the way, there's one thing in common. No Christian killers, no Catholic killers, no Hindu killers. And in Europe, no Jewish killers. Who are the only killers of people in belonging to one religion? Ladies and gentlemen, be upstanding for the Muslims. Why do they feel they have to kill in pursuit of some political arrangement? Okay, in 10 years' time, I won't be here, and Lembit will be operating from one of these care homes that we're all going to be funding, right? But you'll still be here, Jean. Do you believe that the gay community will the Muslim view of homosexuality, particularly, will it be lessened, more, much the same? Do you see what I mean? In 10 years' time, are we going to see liberal change in liberal Europe?
You know, I'm 60 this year, so whether I'm here or not is a bit.
Right. Well, I'd like to be complimentary.
Nothing's getting more liberal. I mean, what's worrying me, and I mean, it is a genuine fear that if nobody is tackling this problem, and it's not just the gay community, it's also women, and you know, we've long said if we're talking about what extremist Islamists in this country would like to see, is it going to be that I'll be sat here, if I was allowed to sit here, which I wouldn't be, in a burqa, in a niqab? Because that is where it could very easily go. And when the absolute refusal to engage with politics that are necessary in this country by left-wing politicians, and Labour in particular, because they're in government now, they are doing so little to stop the problem that we have, which is more violent and unpredictable men, particularly towards women, coming into this country. And they can't get rid of the ones that are here. They will not, take appropriate action to deport the violence that is already here in this country. I am frightened as a woman. I'm frightened as a woman in a relationship with another woman. Have we got to disappear from view? Well, yeah, very likely. I mean, we were in Birmingham when the Islamic rhetoric had become so high, that those little guys in Birmingham, and he is a little guy, can't remember his name now, and we went to the Maccabi game, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And when we came, they put us in a cage, for one thing, and when they needed to take us back to the place that they'd had surrounded with horses, by the way, such was the threat that they had to surround all of us and march us into the place. Going out, it was 10 steps at a time. And I've never been so frightened in my life, Kelvin. And I knew that somewhere there were some people that could break through those lines of police, and we were absolutely surrounded. There were ranks of police around us, and they halted us every 10 steps because of the threat to Jewish people. That threat didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of a group of extremist Islamists in Birmingham, and there is a real problem in Birmingham. And we've got to name that problem. And I thought we were beginning to name it. We all saw that guy say, "Oh, leave your weapons at home," with a little twinkle in his eye. That's here now. And so, no, I'm very frightened. And if you've got leading organisations like Stonewall or, West Streeting or whoever else is unable to say what the threat is, then that threat can only grow.
Can I just add
go on.
briefly? One of the questions, no, you're dead right. one of the questions that no politician will answer me is, why are we allowing an entire parallel legal system called Sharia law? Now, everything you've described is promoted really pretty much by this whole new different system. If you want to live under Sharia law, go to somewhere which has Sharia law. Why are we allowing it? Simple answer, because politicians are terrified of losing the bloc vote. And that tends to be on the left side. It's just unbelievable to me that we're allowing this, what's called cultural relativism, to come in here. Do what you like. You don't have to embrace our culture. We'll just try and bring yours in. When my parents came to this country, they taught me embrace the culture that embraced us. But that's all out the window now, Jean.
Which country did you come from?
My parents came from Estonia, and they had to come here because they would have been killed. And sadly, some of my family members didn't get out of Estonia because of the Soviet system.
Right.
And so we were grateful for the fact that we owed our lives to the largesse of Britain. But the quid pro quo is you come here and you be British. You know, I might celebrate Christmas a day early, but the reality is it's inconceivable to me that we say we're going to have Estonian law in this country. We do it the British way because Britain welcomed us in, and those are the terms. But that's all out the window now, Jean.
Yeah. Well, isn't there some element of actual, the fascism has changed hands here, because my partner is also an immigrant, legal, and she's from Serbia, Dutch Serbian. So, she's regularly accused of being racist or right wing or all of these things, and she's an immigrant. So you think, who's controlling the language here? Because this is outrageous now that you've got an actual threat in this country of Islamic extremism. Does anybody really think there are going to be no further attacks on Jews? Things have gone very quiet recently, but that doesn't mean that that's not coming, because the rhetoric is still high, and it is still, if you're seeing that in Berlin and you're seeing that in Paris, when are we going to see it in the UK? Because if we think we're protected by some words that Wes Streeting says without ever naming Islam, we're not protected at all.
When he used the word disaster, did he mean disaster for the security of pride marches and therefore gay and lesbian marchers, or did he mean disaster in some other context?
That's an interesting one. Is it a political disaster?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did he? Look, I
so
think,
hot.
I think,
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I think
okay, well, look, Jean, I'll leave you now. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Always makes a great deal of sense. And remember, Jean
Thank you.
and me will be on different ends of most of political argument. But the great thing about Jean is she, as she points out, it's difficult to put anybody in a straightforward political box now. It used to be easy. The one thing I always go on about, Jean, is we need wealth creation, and I don't hear any politician talk about that, and I feel very upset that we need to encourage our kids to earn money. And by the way, at 60, by the way, you look splendid. If that sounds sexist, I apologise, but it's meant to be a compliment. Okay, Jean, thank you very much indeed for that, Jean. Lembit.
I look good at 61.
Yeah, you
that
look
would be bad to say.
You look bloody awful, yeah.
I'll take it. I vaguely agree.
You look well. So, I don't worry about Wes Streeting. I couldn't give a damn about him. I hated the fact that he was trying to encourage himself to receive some rather more major cabinet post than Defence Secretary of State, which you would have thought was just about, right now, the most important job in the cabinet, right? More important than Chancellor, somebody to defend us. And what he said was, we need the money, and therefore we will start treating capital gains in the same way as we treat income. And therefore, instead of paying 20-odd%, you pay your marginal rate, which could be 45%. And he suddenly says this out of nowhere in order to catch the eye of somebody that he thought was likely to be the next Prime Minister. It was absolutely sick-making, and I was delighted. And he only got that job, did you see that? Because Rachel Reeves turned it down?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Streeting basically wanted to run the election campaign before Burnham could come in. He couldn't get the numbers.
Yeah.
There weren't even 80-plus Labour MPs who thought he was worth a punt.
Yeah.
Streeting, to me, is the absolute archetypal problem at the moment. We've got people who just don't have the experience to run a country. They're career politicians. They haven't done anything in the real world.
Yeah.
You've been around long enough to know we used to have big beasts. You didn't have to like them all. Alan Clark and Kenneth Baker, maybe not so much Thatcher, whether you liked her or not. She walked proud on the world stage. Now we've got these jokers. West Streeting in front of the military. I bet you Putin wakes up with a cold sweat every night saying, oh, I hope West Streeting doesn't attack Russia. I mean, this is the problem. We've got people who just haven't got the capacity. Also, Justin, I've never liked this. Why do we have this merry-go-round? Why can you do one job in the cabinet and then get tossed into another one?
Correct.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland for 10 years, and I just watched clowns coming in and out who knew nothing about Northern Ireland. It's even worse now.
Yes, I noticed that Ben got the elbow, and they put in that rather strange guy.
Doesn't cut it down much, does it?
No, you know who the guy was. He was Secretary of State for. He was a leader of the Commons before that. I can't. So there we are. That's it. But no, I'm Northern Ireland.
We used to
I'm
know the
Northern
names.
Ireland. I'm always getting people, and if you live it. So the thing about Northern Ireland, you have to know it.
Yeah.
You have to know the nuances. You have to know the name. You have to know the name. What does that name mean? Yeah. What does that colour of hair mean? Yeah. He or she came from that street. And they are clever.
And they need to understand subtleties. Some people say Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland. Yeah. Some people say Derry, others say Londonderry. These people don't know it. It's a good example of the problem we've got. We've got these totally inexperienced people dealing with, in this case, some of the most professional, clued up politicians in the world because they've been through terrorism. And you can say the same about defence and about health and education. And the reason this country's run so badly is because we've got amateurs who think all you have to do is do politics and then you're entitled to run an entire department. Right. No. Totally disagree with that.
Yes, I'm sure there's some intelligent some very clever people in politics.
Well, they're hiding well, aren't they?
Well, and the other issue is if they really do have brains, they can make 90 odd grand a year. Look, if you're on the Labour side, that's a promotion. That is definitely, it's more money than they've ever seen before. It's right. So they even get a pay rise if they used to be a driver on the railways, right? Because there's only 80, and I've now moved to 94. And I've been promised by the union I can have my job back when I'm thrown out. But other aspects of life, if you come from the Tory side, you're probably believe in capitalism. I don't feel many people seem to believe in capitalism. Is it right? You're a professional politician, right? Certainly have been, right? Tell me this: are you not allowed to talk about making money, or does it create a problem with the electorate?
You're allowed to talk about it, and it creates a problem.
Oh, right.
And the reason for that is because people say, oh, you're all in it for the money. I took a pay cut to be an MP. I had a great job, a wonderful company called Procter & Gamble. Yeah. And I loved it. I only left it because it'd be churlish to turn down the chance to be an MP. Yeah. But they would say, oh, you're just doing it for the money, your nose in the trough. No, that's really not the case. Good politicians, as you say, can earn 2 or 3 times more, maybe even more than that, by doing something in the private sector. Yeah. The problem is politicians keep apologising. Every time there's a pay rise, instead of saying, well, it's independently set and I'm taking it, well, we're not going to talk about that. Basically, if you want idiots in Parliament, then pay too little to get the good people, but just enough to attract the bad ones, like you say, who couldn't possibly earn that outside politics.
Okay, right. But what about actually talking about making money? What about saying to young people, there's a lot of discussion about, and by the way, I'm 100% understand this, about you've got a problem finding it, there's 1 million in NEETs, there's this, there's that, there's the other, and the fact you can earn more money by claiming you've got depression than you can by doing a Saturday job. I really, honestly, that's so bad. But nobody ever says, we need people to go out and literally make money. We want you to make money. Does that cause a problem?
Yes, it does. Because we've got this welfare benefit mindset now.
Right.
Oh, I do suffer depression. Okay, well, there you go. Live your life. Yeah. Here's 78 grand for you and your family not to do work. And the reason it's a problem is because politicians don't want to seem like they're heartless. They don't want to sound like, oh, but you got 94 grand and you're telling us to go and do a menial job for 25,000.
But what is the point? Oh, so what you're saying is the only way a politician can be certain of a career is actually by being on the here you are, rather than saying you're going to have to get on with it.
They think that, but actually it's wrong because, once again, back to Thatcher, she was I didn't actually agree with Thatcher.
Yeah.
I think she did a lot of damage. But she was popular because she said it like it was. Ronald Reagan, he was the same. There's actually a mindset in this country that it's bad to get rich. In America, it's the opposite. In this country, you say, oh, my neighbour's rich, the greedy git. In America, you say, my neighbour's rich, I want to be like him. That's the difference. They celebrate success. I was talking to some American people yesterday, and they said, we can't believe what you're doing in Britain. Over here, we've never had it so good. Whether they like Trump or not, they think that Trump has really made the place spectacularly entrepreneurial. In this country, we squeeze the rich so much that we've got a record number of millionaires leaving this country and taking all their entrepreneurship with them. And what do we get left? Well, we get people who, let me suspect, come over on boats without the intention of starting major businesses. But very happy to live in hotels.
Let me just take that point then. I would say I live in Weybridge, and there is it's not the high street, but it's a secondary street, right? If you took the migrants out of that street running shops, all the shops would be shut. So to give them their credit, whether it's the corner shop, the dry cleaners, the lock shop, the new Italian, the next to it a Malaysian, right? Then I think there's some white entrepreneurs run a bar, right? And Italians run a pizza joint. The point I'm really making is that some of the people that come to our country, if we took them out, right? I can't imagine what the high street would look like.
First of all, you've probably guaranteed your 10% discount in the whole high street now, which is clearly your intention.
That's true. I wish that would happen.
I spent many years in Leicester. My family lived there. And it's truly multicultural. I'm pretty sure there's a majority of Sikhs or people who've come in from other countries. They all work hard. Leicester is actually a peaceful place. And it's been happening over maybe 70 years. I guess that's one reason Estonians, my old heritage, settled there in their thousands. And it works because everybody works. That's not the problem. It's when we are a soft touch to people who don't come here to work. Right. So I agree with you. It's not about where you come from, it's what you think. Yeah. And what we've now said to people is, go through half a dozen safe countries and claim asylum here because we're a soft touch, and we'll take 5 years to decide whether to send you out again. Those people aren't doing the work. And I bet you that the people you describe in that industrious high street probably didn't turn up on a boat.
No, they definitely didn't. In fact, I'm pretty good friends with most of them, actually, mainly because I pay my bills. Well, I'm thinking of paying them anyway. Right. do stay then, because coming up now, the economist, Damien Pudner. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Hi there, Damien. How are you?
Actually, Kelvin, I'm not too well, but always happy to join you. So,
oh, right. Okay.
A little bit of the lurgy.
Okay, well, if you do drop dead in the middle of it, probably be the most interesting thing on this show. So
it'll go viral.
Yeah.
See what I did there.
Exactly. So just do it. I tell you what you should do. We definitely do this, right? At the end of it, keel over, right? Just in the middle of me saying goodbye.
A heart attack.
Yeah, go on. No, grab your heart and disappear over, and then we can issue a statement saying we're very sorry, Mrs. Pudner.
I might actually be able to.
What's that, Mrs. Pudner? You've got Tom the gardener coming around in 20 minutes. Yeah, okay, all right, speak to you later.
I think the Mrs. Pudner would be very happy if I keeled over.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine all the women in the world hoping that their husbands and partners all drop dead, you know. Anyway, that is not true of mine. That's not true of mine. Leslie, we've been together now for the thick end of 30 seconds. She'd be very grateful if I'd last another 20.
Good recovery.
Good. Right. So look, Damien, you come on to talk specifically about the state of Scotland. There were two aspects which, one of which really cheered me up, was that rent freezes have been a total effing disaster in Scotland, where actually the rents have gone up. Well done, Scotland. Well done, Scotland. And the second one was that we've decided for your own good, the people of Scotland, we're going to put up income tax from 45 to 48p. How's it all going? Actually, because people are quite bright and they start paying themselves through dividends or actually not taking jobs, or the most important thing, not going to bloody Scotland to pay 48p, right? Right, the place is a shambles anyway, and why you'd want to pay tax on top of that, I have no idea, right? Or Jockistan, as it's better known, right? actually, what happened? There was a collapse in the income tax revenues at the top layer, and they fell by 22 to down by 22 million, which cheered me up no end. And I only know anything about this through another economist, right, of which called Dan Needle, who seems to have secured the market in coming up with ideas. So good luck for him and his tax associates.
He's very good. I like Dan. I like that. We don't agree on everything, but he's very good with the detail and the analysis.
Yeah, well, that's great. So tell me, why? So Scotland is basically a petri dish for England to look at what works and what doesn't work. And the good news is that with the collapse of the rent, with the rents actually going up following a rent freeze, even Angela Rayner, as stupid as she is, or as clever as she is, has said that there's not going to be a rent freeze in the UK.
Well, it would be a disaster. I mean, you're right. If you look at Scotland, they initially froze rents at 0% and then capped them at 3%. And all that really happened was that the landlords clobbered the next people coming in. So if you were a young couple looking for your first flat, or someone moving for work, or for a family needing an extra bedroom, you got absolutely clobbered. So it was a complete disaster. You're right. The average 2-bedroom rents in Scotland went up 14%, Glasgow something like 22%. So, these are not small increases, and they didn't abolish rent increases. All they did was just shift them to the next person coming through the door. So, if you're going to discourage investment and reduce the supply of rental properties, put caps in place. I mean, it's a ridiculous policy.
Something similar happened.
Go on,
Briefly, something similar has happened in England, because what they said was you can't have a gazumping, you can't negotiate and haggle and upstate. So what's happened is, and I know this from landlords in London and rent agents, they say, so now we put it really high because we can bring it down, but we can't put it up.
Oh, I
see.
See.
The absolute opposite has happened of what they wanted there as well. So instead, if you were going to charge $1,000 a month, you say, well, we'll put it up to $1,500 a month because we can bring it down. And so, once again, the law of unintended consequences.
Although I was told by an agent the other day that there is absolutely a limit to what people can pay. So even taking that, I do prefer that high to low, because you can't do it the other way around. Because what your agent has to do when a property comes on the market is they have to go round the area to see whether there has been a rise in rents. And actually, I could actually see an example right now with Labour coming in that there would probably be a decline in rents. But what about the other area that you know all about, Damien, which is the raising of income tax by 3p from 45 to 48? And
they brought this in. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, they've already got higher taxes in Scotland. So, you get charged 45% from £75,000 onwards, 48% from just over 125,000. It's lower in England, as you know. So this isn't just hitting millionaires or the ultra wealthy. This is doctors, consultants, business owners, senior managers, what we could class today as ordinary high earners, whether you like that or not. So the SNP said, well, we're going to get £53 million by increasing from 47p to 48p on the higher rate. But their own fiscal watchdog at the same time said, hang on a second, well, people are not going to just accept that. They're going to change how they work. They'll put more money into pensions, as you rightly said earlier. They'll take dividends instead of salary. They'll work less. They'll restructure their affairs. And once you allow for all that, the fiscal watchdog said, you're not going to get 53 million. You're going to get about 8 million. So they already knew before they introduced the policy that 85% of the extra revenue was likely to disappear. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And the higher top rate taxpayers in Scotland, the revenues there that were declared, or the income declared, fell by 7.6%. Whereas across the rest of Britain, it actually rose by 5.4% during the same period.
Really? So, okay, so we're looking at Scotland, a total disaster of a place, right? And I have no, and do you know what? Social mobility has changed in this country. I can remember when London you couldn't get out of the way. Well, it could be even worse. Couldn't get out of the way of the Scots. Even worse, you couldn't get out of the way of the Welsh, right? Of which, and so, but and people coming here from Northern Ireland, it was a real melting pot of people and interests, right? I noticed none of them went back, by the way. Anyway,
is that on me?
You wouldn't want to go back to Wales, trust me.
No, but that's that is actually my point. Yeah. So you are with social mobility having changed dramatically, and there was a decent article I saw the other day saying that people were now staying at home, and of course all this nonsense from Burnham about rejuvenating areas, which I'm not hostile to. But the idea that people stay in their own neighbourhood, that is not a good idea. You want people to travel. Does it broaden the mind? I don't know. But it certainly changes the way you look at life. You learn a lot. And then if you want to go home, that's fine. But what is the point of living in environments where they're sticking up taxes to the point which are a disincentive to want to get on? So we have in England, well, everywhere actually, a kind of 100 grand cliff edge, right?
That's
where
right.
actually you do better not to take it, or arrange for the money to go into your pension, or do something, right?
Well, that's it. You're right. There's this cliff edge between 100,000 and 125,000 where your marginal rate, shoots up, and it's literally just not worth earning that extra few pounds after the 100,000. So, that is a massive disincentive. And I appreciate that there are lots of people throughout the country that think £100,000 is a lot of money, and it is. But also, if you're in certain parts of the country, and London's the perfect example, with the cost of living there, the cost of housing, of travel, it's not a lot. It's not a lot.
It's tosh. Round my way, right? By the time you commuted, parked the car, done this, and you need a couple of hookers thrown in, you basically got no money. No, but seriously,
you don't have money.
You are in a serious difficulty, and your missus has to go. The old days, like the old days where you go out and get the meat in and all the rest of it. That's totally yesterday.
I know plenty of people who are married couple, who are earning between them 150, 200,000 pounds of income before tax, and they're struggling. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but they are struggling. When you add in the cost of housing, the cost of travel, the cost of childcare and everything else, they are struggling. And that is a reality that politicians need to grasp. And whether, that annoys, and I don't want to swear, whether it annoys certain, other voters, well, tough. I mean, that is the reality we live in.
We want people to make 100 grand, 200
we
grand,
do.
300 grand.
We
I
do.
don't want £80,000 members of train crew, right, not turning up for work and leading to us all being sardines coming up from Weybridge today. Anyway, that was a personal rant. Thanks very much, Damien. Very good to speak to you. Speak to you next week.
I'll speak to you later.
And love all the detail.
I'm going to die.
Oh, God. No, better news.
The wife will be happy.
Right, the audience has gone up. A couple of grey-haired twerps, they've gone. That would be great, wouldn't it? We should definitely do that. What was that guy, Cooper? Who was the Tommy Cooper? He died on air, didn't he?
Yeah, he actually died in the royal performance.
Yeah.
And people laughed because they thought he was acting.
Yeah.
But he actually died on stage. It was quite a dark moment.
A funny guy, though.
Not so funny in real life.
Oh, is that true?
He was a mean so-and-so.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah. Really bad. I mean, he mistreated his partner, something awful.
Oh, did he?
It's a shame to know that, but he was a comedy genius.
Yeah.
Like your good self.
Well, hold on a second. I'm
the second part, not the first.
Being generous to everybody. Okay, fine. Now we're going to go for the news now, I think. And after the news, we've got Sophie coming on. Sophie must be the most feisty. I don't know how old she is. I think she's 21 or 22. How old are you, Sophie? Okay, all right. Sophie in her 20s. By the way, hang on to your hats. And if she starts attacking me, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to call the cops.
Then you deserve it. You deserve it.
Okay. Right, Lembit, thank you very much indeed for spending your time, and we'll see you in a couple of days. Hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, be well.
Okay. Good to see you, man.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your Tuesday Bulletin. New Prime Minister Andy Burnham has just hosted his first foreign leader, Ukraine's Zelensky, at a naval base, promising the UK has his back 100% and gifting the tech for a fancy drone jamming system. Nothing says steady leadership like the 7th Prime Minister in a decade still handing out military toys while the country's on fire. Speaking of which, Britain's 4th heat wave of the summer is officially underway, with amber health alerts raised and temperatures heading for 35 degrees Celsius. Parts of Wales remain in drought, wildfires keep popping up, and hosepipe bans cover millions, because nothing beats a proper British summer like rationing water, while the countryside quietly turns to tinder. Meanwhile, Burnham's also floating a possible death tax to fix social care and promising to value hard hats as much as graduation caps. Priorities, people. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, tigers.
In February.
Hi there, welcome back. Kelvin MacKenzie here, having recovered from my heart attack. Damien didn't look too good when he fell over. So that's the whole point. Everybody having been interviewed here drops dead and the audience then rises. So we'll be in great shape. Joining me is Sophie. Now, Sophie, how many followers have you now got on your...
Oh, God, I think about 260,000.
260,000, right. So tell me, what the hell is aggravating you today?
Pretty much the entirety of British politics. But no,
Oh, really?
I actually think what's going on with reform is winding me up. And
Okay, tell me, let's talk about that then,
Yeah.
because a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers here are watching something happening in politics which disturbs them. Reform have had a fantastic run right up to the 30s. Now, I still think a triumphant 22, 24, possibly going to get worse. I don't know. I still think that's a triumph from a dead start, to be honest. But they feel as though they're kind of shifting plates underneath them.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
I think so, and I think for the first time they've actually lost the lead in the polls. They've been leading for, I think it was about 15 months or something like that consistently. They've now lost to Labour. Obviously, we've got the Burnham bound, so that's going to be a factor.
Yeah.
But Burnham is definitely far more difficult to beat than Keir Starmer. First of all, because he's actually sort of charismatic. I mean, Keir Starmer is just an absolute... He's like the ChatGPT Prime Minister, essentially.
Yeah.
But Burnham is much better.
Actually, hold on a second. I use ChatGPT. It's fantastic. He was not fantastic, was he?
That's
Okay,
a good
I'm
point.
sorry.
That's a good point. But I mean, he has no character. He has no charisma. He's got nothing about him, really.
Okay.
But nonetheless, Burnham obviously is a completely different factor. But what's going on with reform, obviously, regarding all these financial scandals and things, I mean, that's something of their own doing, first of all. And I disagree, and your viewers are going to disagree with me massively here.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. But don't take any... Hello, they've all gone.
Which is good, because I think the right should stop defending reform on this.
Oh, right.
We've had the right come in and say it's a witch hunt. Everything that's come out is completely factual, first of all. Nobody's making anything up. And secondly, we should expect better from the people that defend our position. We should expect better from our politicians. And I don't care. I always get a lot of people coming up to me and say, well, Labour's doing this, Andy Burnham's doing this person's done this. Yeah. Did you not learn as a child that two wrongs don't make a right? So I don't give a crap what anyone else is doing. I don't give a crap what the left are doing. I don't care what Labour is doing. What I care about are the people that defend our views are doing the right thing, and that they uphold themselves with integrity, that we have basic standards, that the people on the right are not corrupt, that they're not taking money from dodgy people. I don't believe at all, whether you think that Farage wants to use this money for whatever reason, for his security, this man could get money from all sorts of places because of who he is. He doesn't need to take money from somebody that is a convicted fraudster. He has done. And whether you think he's used it for the right purposes or the wrong purposes, either way, he's wrong. And I don't think the right should be defending him on this.
Okay, can I just interrupt and just raise another issue?
Yeah.
Not one that's identical. But if you look at the Trump issue, much of the stuff which Trump has been accused of has turned out to be right. Okay, and he's had to pay out money in relation to alleged rapes or whatever, or attacks of some kind. So the Americans seem to have just swallowed that and moved on.
Yeah.
I presume that is what Farage is betting on, you see, that eventually everybody just moves on and everything's fine. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, he is betting on that, and he thinks that just because he says the right things that he can do whatever he wants, and just because whatever happened was before he came into politics, that therefore it's fine. He uses that excuse quite a lot. Oh, well, it was before I became an MP, so therefore it's my own private den. It doesn't matter. It still shows everything about your character and the people that you're willing to surround yourselves with, and I don't think we should swallow it. Actually, I think from the right of British politics, we should have better standards. We should behave ethically. We should do the right thing. And we should have clear principles. And I think that, yes, Farage says the right things, but if he doesn't behave in the right way, he's not the right person. He's not someone who I want representing my views, because all he does is give people ammunition. All you're doing is giving people the right to have a perception about people on the right of British politics, which is wrong. We have to be better than the left. We have to be better than the left in every capacity, whether it's the way that we engage with each other, whether it's the way that we conduct ourselves in our personal lives, whether it's the way we conduct ourselves in our professional lives. We have to be better than them. I don't care what they're doing. Just because they're all corrupt and useless doesn't mean we should be. We should be better than that, and that's what I want from the right of British politics.
Right. Well, that's very interesting, that, Sophie. Right. So by the way, I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that, and there wouldn't be a credit card between us. However, I suspect that many viewers here would not agree with that. No. I'd like you now to text in, and we'll put all your text to air. So if you could text, she should do one, sod off.
But what?
Right. So that is not an argument, right? No. That is just being plain rude. Okay. Sophie should not sod off. I like having her. She's talking rubbish. Somebody else. Look, this is the whole point of debate, right? She should not sod off, and we don't like it. So I agree with Sophie. So
I know there's loads agree with you, Sophie.
Yeah. This is a very good point. Now, I didn't like Richard Tice getting involved in all this either. No. I mean, the boss is one thing, but if the number two is having money paid into his company, which he's then distributing into reform, I'd like to know how accounts, how HMRC and his own accountant would view that money coming in, apart from anything else. But it's turned out to be a problem. It turns out to be a problem because I think all genuine people who are moving towards reform, after all, those reform voters, by and large, came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But they have nowhere else they can't go back.
No, yeah.
They're not going to go back to Labour, to the right wing of Labour. And they're not going to go back to being Conservatives because the main policy difference is security of our borders.
Yeah.
And nobody is offering that as a central plank of what they believe. So what is the way forward? Are you suggesting that he should stand down?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's fair enough. Okay. So
not because of his financial issues, actually. I think it's because he's called a stupid by-election, wasting hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money to stand in the exact same by-election for nothing more than an ego trip. That's why. And
of course, there's going to be another one, isn't there? Because
if you stand down in the by-election, don't stand in the preceding one. Go. If you want to go, go. That's my personal view. Don't waste taxpayers' money just to try and get yourself in the headlines. And that's all this has done. It's a stunt to get in the headlines. It's failed because Burnham's taken the headlines anyway. Has anyone even spoken about the Clacton by-election in the last couple of weeks? I don't think they really have.
Well, the only way they've spoken about it is in relation to how many votes Binface may get. Yes. And I could see him getting a really good number because I could see anybody who wasn't reform friendly simply saying, actually, I am going to vote. It's going to be a protest vote. And I think it could be bizarrely close.
Yeah.
And right. So the suggestion from Sophie, who's no fool, by the way, nobody's allowed on this, with the exception of Pooch, nobody's allowed on this station or this channel who's a fool. And who would replace him, or do you know who would replace him, or who would you fancy?
Well, I think this is the difficult thing for reform is, do they have a replacement that themselves hasn't been embroiled in some form of financial scandal?
Lee Anderson?
I don't think.
Okay, fine. I'm only saying that because he's of the people.
Yeah.
But other people have said, and you may be voicing that view, that that women would not vote for a reform with a Lee Anderson running
No,
it.
I don't think so. I think obviously Farage has been embroiled in financial scandal. Richard Tice has been embroiled in financial scandal. Robert Jenrick, who a lot of people said would originally come in and be, a really strong voice in reform, again has been embroiled in some form of financial scandal with the way that he ran his leadership contest. I mean, he's been investigated. I think it's been investigated by the police actually, so he could be in a lot of trouble there. He may even.
Well, hold on a second. So you're killing them all, right?
Yeah.
I'm not against
So
this
they're all
debate. I like the debate because it will get everybody either fired up for you or against you.
Well, ultimately, it's the truth. So if you want to be fired up against me, then you have to accept the fact that you have low standards in the people that represent public life. And have we got to the point of desperation in this country where we think that anybody who says one thing that we agree with is the right person to lead this country? It can't be like that. It's a race to the bottom. We have to make sure that the people who are representing this country behave themselves properly, that we're not being desperate, because what did desperation got us? Desperation got us this awful Labour government with Keir Starmer at this last election.
So that is a good point.
This is what desperation gets us. We need to have better standards. We need to have better standards for people who represent us in the right, for people who are our politicians, and it is entirely possible to create a Conservative Party on the right that defends the ideas of freedom, of fairness, and of family, and who all behave themselves in a proper manner. Somebody said to me earlier on the comments, well, who's going to stand up to that sort of scrutiny? The people that are in it for the right reasons will. The people that are not in it to make money, the people that are not in it to be corrupt, and the people that have the proper principles and behaviour to be in public life will do. The problem is we don't have many people like that at the moment.
Okay,
and that's
what about
we need
you?
to find.
What about you?
Oh, I think I'm a bit too young for that, I'm afraid, at the moment.
Question for you.
Yes.
Right.
Screen.
Does Sophie like the Burnham regime?
No, I don't. And this is what I often get actually in criticism when I criticise reform is, oh, you want a Labour government, you want Burnham, you support Burnham. No, I don't. I criticise Burnham probably more than I criticise reform. But what I want is a good right-wing government built around the right people that will bring this country forward and that will defend the principles that I believe in the correct way. But I have standards, and I have every right to have standards. I think everyone should have high standards for the people in politics. It's the people that are becoming desperate, and I understand why people are desperate. I do understand why people are desperate. We need someone to come and save this country. A lot of people think that is Farage, but we need someone
Okay,
else.
let me ask you this. Farage stands down, which I would say is more likely than not over the next 6 months. Okay, he stands down. Are you going to stick with reform, or are you actually wavering now and saying I might move? I mean, I presume you wouldn't move further than the Conservatives, right?
Yeah, no.
Are you likely to, could you go to conservatism,
I mean,
or
to
will
be
you
fair,
stay?
I've always been a Conservative, so for me it's not that big of a jump. And I do think at the beginning of Kemi's leadership, I think she was awful, and I was one of the first people to say that. But I think that she has started to try and become a Conservative. I think she's started to figure out what she's doing. She's becoming quite popular in the polls. She's actually the most popular leader of a political party in this country at the moment. Do I think the Conservative Party machine is good enough to win an election? No, I don't. But I would say it depends. If Reform is a good enough party, if it is built around the right principles, if it has a good foundation, if it had a good democratic foundation, and no matter who the leader is, the party would survive and the party would do well.
Okay, so here we are. They're at 22 or 24% as we speak, right? They have been as high as the 30s. That was freakish. I thought that they might well make a government.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that particularly likely now. No. So Farage quits.
Yeah.
That number, to my mind, literally goes down to 16 or 14, which would really be a really massive issue, I think. What happens? Are we then watching the end of reform? Because actually, supposing the Tories went up to, say, 26 or 28, all right, with only 14 there, it means that come an election, the right will never form a coalition to be the government.
No.
The only certainty is that Labour, Greens, and Lib Dems, we'll be watching that forever, Sophie.
Yeah.
I literally, for the rest of whatever my life is, I would be watching a Labour government of some kind.
Yeah, well, and this is the difficulty that I've said, and this is why I disagree with the way that the leaders on the right have conducted themselves. The way that, you have people quite routinely in Reform saying we're going to destroy the Conservatives, we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth and all of these things. Well, at some point you may need them to form a coalition
Correct.
with you, because that's the only way the right can defeat the left is if the right is united and the left is divided. Because other than that, the left will always outnumber the right. And we saw this issue even in some places. We saw it in Makerfield, for example. A lot of people were saying, oh, the right are divided. The Conservatives and Restore Britain, I think they're called, are going to split the vote. Well, actually, even if you added all the votes up together, the left still won by about 5,000.
Yeah.
So naturally, the right has to be united, but it's never going to unite around people that say that they want to destroy the other one. Because why on earth would a Conservative want to go, to team up with Reform when they've spent the last 2 years saying that they're going to wipe them off the face of the earth? I mean, it's not going to happen.
Good point. So let's just deal with this. Farage is gone.
Yep.
Tice has gone. As you say,
I think Reform has
Generic
gone
might
at that
go.
point.
Yeah. So the whole thing is imploding.
Yep.
Who is going to lead Reform that we feel, or not that we feel, that you can rally around? Anybody?
I suppose it's Kemi Badenoch. That's all you've got left.
So you're saying to Badenoch, who said the same stuff on the other side, right?
This is why I'm saying.
She says there's no way that we're going to merge with Reform.
No, and I think the reason why she said that is because people like, Zia Yusuf, who is the most insufferably rude man in British politics for no good reason, by the way, has consistently said that they're going to destroy Reform, they're going to wipe them off the face of the earth, and he hasn't conducted himself in a very good way. I think Zia Yusuf has done massive amounts of damage to the right of British politics, and he's escaped quite a lot of criticism for that, but he is an awful person. We've got a lot of times where, we spend a lot of time in TV studios or whatever else, and you're always going to have some sort of lefty on with you, because you have to with Ofcom, don't you? You've got to stick a token lefty in. And we always...
I'm the token lefty in here.
I think I might be called the token lefty
No,
at this point,
no, don't worry about that, Matt. Go on.
But, you always have to conduct yourself with civility and be polite to people and work with people. But Zia Yusuf cannot work with people. He's rude to everybody. He's rude to people on his own team. I just think he's deeply insufferable. And I don't exactly know why he's got to the position he has in British politics. But I think he single-handedly has done the most amount of damage to the right of British politics at the moment. And he has to take a lot of responsibility for that. But I think, it's difficult because the right should work together. I think the Conservatives are starting to come into a position. My dream government a little while back would have been a Reform-led government with the backing of experienced Conservatives who know what it's like to lead, who know what it's like to run a government, who have dealt with the sort of behind-the-scenes things. So we've got a nice combination of fresh ideas, new ideas, properly right-wing ideas, but also people that are sensible, people that know what they're doing, people that can be a safe pair of hands as much as you can ever get a safe pair of hands. And you blend experience with a fresh new outlook on British politics and a way to steadily revolutionise this country into the way that it needs to be. That would have been my personal best solution, is a Reform government led by Nigel Farage, but backed up by some very, very experienced Conservatives who can make sure that, because the Reform are quite a radical party, and when you have radical ideas, which Britain needs, sometimes you get unintended consequences of that.
I mean, this is
you need a nice blend, and
my
that's
big
what
problem
I hope happens.
is if we don't have secure borders, we don't have a country, and we don't seem to have a party that represents us outside Reform, who seems to do anything about it. Sophie, I've got to call you a day. Thank you very much for. You'll be pleased to know that the audience has fallen by 28,000.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't matter. This is what debate's all about. Very nice to see you. I love the fighting spirit. Okay, right. So we got. I don't know whether you noticed the other day that Beefeater has shuttered 106 restaurants, and to do that is pretty much a disaster. I would have thought if you want to eat reasonably cheaply, it may be a big thing, it may be a small thing. Somebody will lead me through the reasonings behind all this and why the hotel group, Whitbread, which own the businesses, have decided to do this. Is Anna McGovern. Anna, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
And very well, thank you. Just tell me, Anna, what is your expertise in relation to do you eat at Beefeater or are you a financial analyst?
I'm definitely not a financial analyst. I believe I've been invited because a lot of the viewers know me as a Tavy Carvery addict. So
so am I. So am I.
I love it. It's like one of my favourite restaurants ever. And I was a reporter for Mike's show at CPAC about a week or so ago, maybe a bit
Yeah.
longer, and I was manning his table, and some of his viewers were coming up to me saying, "When are you next going to the Toby Carvery?" So it has become a bit of a running joke now that I'm the Toby Carvery expert. So when this story broke, they thought of me to come and bring my expertise.
Okay, which one do you go to? Which
What
Toby
Toby
Carver?
Carvery?
Yeah. Which one?
Everywhere. Oh, I love everywhere. I'm just trying all the different Toby Carveries. I don't have a specific one that I would go
Do
to.
you know
Every
what?
time in the UK, I would start looking up where's the Toby Carvery, and also as well. So I used to live in Reading,
Yeah.
and I used to live about a 10-15 minute walk away from a Toby Carvery, which is where I first started going quite a bit, because it was literally down the road. And then I was bringing my friends, bringing everyone I could to come along with me and show them how great it is.
Oh, you know, I totally agree with it. So how are you feeling? So Toby Carberry, I know because I used to be friendly with the finance director. Well, in fact, I still know him. And he said it's a great business, right?
Mm-hmm.
The margins are great, but the food's fantastic. I've never seen so much food in my life when I went there. But tell me about the beefeater. What's going to happen with all the beefeaters shutting? Where are we going to get our cheap nosh from now onwards?
Exactly. And I think this is a sign as well of what's happening with the hospitality industry being hit so hard. I would say, especially as well with Labour coming in, I think a lot of people in the hospitality industry have said that they can't afford to continue running. There's places that have had to shut as a result of increased tax rises and such, and they're really struggling. I think this is especially such after COVID as well. So also with this, so with all the beefeaters shutting, that's about 3,800 jobs at risks. So
Yeah.
this people's livelihoods as well on the line. And I think as well for young people who are just graduating out of university, there was one time you could go to university, you get your degree, and then you're guaranteed a job. They tell you university's the best way to go and get your degree, and then you're guaranteed a job. But now it seems like you're piling on all of this debt for a meaningless piece of paper. Now, that's not to say that all degrees are, so it's referred to as Mickey Mouse degrees now, because it's not particularly worth the piece of paper it's on. There are some degrees that, of course, are really important because you need that degree to get into, say, I don't know, for example, into medicine and such. But so for these young people, they're applying for places. So say even if to get a job in hospitality, they're getting rejected. They can't even get a job at McDonald's in some cases. I've seen that as well. And I think that's just a sign of what's happening with the hospitality industry. It's getting hit so hard and it's affecting everyone.
Okay, well, look, it's a very good point, a point we constantly raise, that in fact, for kids coming out of university, they were hoping to get a, quotes, good job, unquotes. Now they will take any job. And the other downside to all this is I saw some stats, I think this morning, in which huge numbers of kids are staying at home. They all used to live. I mean, I basically got kicked out when I was 16, 17, right? For my dad finding me calling my bookmaker, calling a bookmaker. It wasn't my bookmaker, but calling a bookmaker. And he thought that this was quite wrong. So I got the bullet. But now at 23, the fact that you're still living at home because literally you can't afford to pay $1,200 a month or $1,000 a month or $900 a month for a one-bedroom flat or something. The other aspect is it driving couples together early? Do you see do you know what I mean? I mean, you might quite like your boyfriend, but you don't want to live with him. You want to have a good time and enjoy yourself. But actually, you can get yourself a one-bedroom flat, and only, between each of you paying £400 a month or $450 a month each, so it's $900 a month. Is romance being crushed together?
I would say that I do take your point as well, that I think young people particularly are stuck in the rental cycle because they can't afford to buy their own home anymore. So I really do feel for them as well, because, at one point as well, like, back in the day, it was much easier. But now for young people around my age, it is seemingly impossible to get on the housing ladder. Because bringing back to the point of what we were saying about universities, if getting a degree means that it doesn't guarantee you a job anymore, you've got young people who have worked very hard at university getting their degree.
No, that's rubbish. That is rubbish.
No, I would.
Anna, that is rubbish. You have not worked very hard. You have worked reasonably
maybe
hard.
It depends what degree you're doing. Fair enough, it depends. But what I would say is you do go to university for 3-4 years, you get your degree, and you might have some young people with really, like, I don't know, engineering degrees, for example, or degrees like that, and they're having to apply for hospitality jobs because they can't get a job in the industry that they want to work in. So I think, it's a lot harder. And I think for young people as well, that's probably why they are stuck in the rental cycle as well, because they can't afford to buy their own home and they literally don't have any other choice.
Okay. So which university did you go to, by the way, Anna?
I went to Queen Mary, University of London. I was actually one of those people that went during the COVID lockdown. And
right.
My first year, it was all online, and it was a case as well where sometimes they didn't really know how to work the Zoom technology, so you're having lectures over Zoom that were very broken. All my exams were cancelled as well, so I actually didn't sit a single exam in my whole time studying.
No.
I know, and that was because. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So you came out with the first then in that case, then, did you?
I just missed a first by a few marks, just a few marks.
Well,
but what I will tell you as well, so when it came to my final year, so during this time, we were plagued with lots of strikes happening. So that meant that when it came to finding out what your grade was, I was one of a very, very small number in my class that were told you have achieved enough to have passed, but because of the strikes, we can't actually tell you what your grade is yet. So some people didn't know if they had passed their degree. And when it came to my graduation, I graduated with a blank piece of paper, not knowing what my degree was. All I knew is that I got enough to pass, but I didn't know what my degree was. And there were other people in that boat as well. And then there were other people who had to wait months and months before they actually found out what their final degree result was because of the strikes, because the lecturers weren't there to mark their papers. So there were people left in the dark for months thinking, have I passed? What's going on? So I felt that I was truly robbed of my university experience in particular, just because of COVID and then the strikes after that.
So are you in work now?
Yes, so I'm a journalist now, and I've got my own business, marketing.
Oh, right, good.
So I would say I've fortunately been one of the lucky ones, but there are other young adults in my position who they've come out of university and they found it very hard to get a job after graduating. I would say my biggest advice is just try and get as much work experience as you can. Because I think now employers, because the value of the degree is decreasing depending on what industry you're looking to work in.
Yeah.
I think they value work experience more. What can you contribute to a workplace? They'll look at that over whether you've got that piece of paper from whatever university. So I would say if any young adults are watching this, that was honestly what made the difference for me when I was graduating a couple of years ago and looking for jobs.
Okay, well, that's good. So the truth about the matter is that most youngsters aren't looking for work, are they, in work experience? They enjoy being with their mates. They enjoy putting their trotters up, as they say. They're not. The number of Saturday jobs has actually gone down. I read a number the other day saying 75,000 less Saturday jobs than when Labour came in and stuck up the price of a minimum wage for everybody. Your experience of all your friends. Well, actually, you wouldn't have made a lot of friends at uni, would you? Because actually, you didn't hang out with them at all. You only hang out on Zoom and streaming.
Well, okay, to your point about the Saturday jobs, I would say the reason why they've gone down is because the hospitality industry has been hit so hard by
Yeah,
tax rise. They
yeah,
can't
agree.
afford to employ. I've seen this before as well, where employers have said they literally can't afford to employ, say, part-time workers because they've been hit so hard. So I wouldn't say it's all young people don't want to work. I think it's as a result of the hospitality industry being hit so hard that they literally can't provide the job for young adults. And then you've got AI as well, replacing lots of jobs. And for young adults trying to, they've graduated university, they're trying to get their first job. It's just getting harder and harder. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think it's a lot harder for young adults now to
Okay.
get there in the door.
Okay, Anna, thank you very much indeed. That's Anna McGovern, who came on to talk about the shutting of 106 restaurants, which actually has led to 3,800 people losing their jobs, although I think that Whitbread are going to try and place some of those people because they're going to increase the size of their hotel estate. So there might be some good news out there. You've described it on a little text there as Anna is a breath of fresh air. Very nice to see you, Anna, and hope to see you again sometime. Thank you very much indeed. Now, in a kind of 120, 160, 180 degree turn, I'm joined by Mr. Menno.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Menno. Now, can I just ask you something? Why are you called Mr. Menno?
Well, Menno is my name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a reasonable... I just wondered whether it was something to do with it. Now...
It means the butch one.
Yeah, you're looking hugely attractive, I must say. So we are I would have thought the Pride movement was in some degree of unease this morning, having seen the targeting in Berlin.
Yeah.
I was extremely, as you know, listening to the debate, I was uneasy about the fact that neither Stonewall nor any gay activist group or any MP or any minister actually mentioned, I would say, the Muslim in the room. You'd normally say the elephant in the room.
The Muslim elephant.
Yeah, the Muslim elephant. Nobody.
I mean, they believe in flying donkeys, so why not?
That is correct.
Elephants.
Flying horses, anyway. So, but tell me, does that concern you, or does that concern the gay movement generally? That the politics of whoever attacks you shouldn't be important, but in this case, because of their outright dislike or hatred, and actually in law, the way they conduct their countries, right? You wouldn't want to be gay in many Middle Eastern countries.
Well, I very much agree with what Jean Hatchett said, your earlier guest.
Yeah.
You have to name the threat, because if you don't, then it just keeps growing. And we're seeing that there's a real pattern of violence perpetrated by Muslims. And I'm not really too interested in whether they're moderate or not, because they're using their faith. So we're seeing this in the States, in Australia, and it's particularly young Muslims that are doing this. So they tend to be teenagers. In Sydney, it's been teenagers. They go on these gay hookup apps like Grindr, or different ones that exist. They lure these other teenagers to parks, and then they beat them up. And
Is that true? Where did that happen?
In Sydney.
Did it?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that. I believe it, man. I'm pleased to see that you do notes and all the rest of it.
Listen, what we're seeing these attacks in Sydney, and the Muslims that are doing that, and I'm not saying every Muslim, but you have to be able to say this is driven by their faith. They're connected to an IS resurgence network. Then we had that attack in Berlin.
Yep.
And then in the press they say it was a car.
Yeah.
And like it's a self-driving car. Like, are we going to blame the car? It's a man. Again, he's a young man. He's got connections to the Islamist scene there.
Yeah.
We have to be able to point that out without being called a bigot or a racist or whatever. In Ireland, a man was beheaded by a Muslim guy.
Yeah.
And that wasn't...
By a sword.
I don't know whether he used a sword, but it was in Sligo, right? There were 2 men that were killed. He went to their houses, he bound them up, and then he killed them. And a third was stabbed and blinded. And he particularly targeted gay men. So and this is happening in different countries. These attacks keep happening.
Whereabouts did that attack happen?
That was Sligo in Ireland.
Yeah, right.
So that was 2022. Then in Australia, there's that pattern of, especially the young ones, they're all like in their teens or in their 20s. So we have to be able to just name that.
Does the gay community fear?
Oh, and then Paul's Nightclub in Orlando in 2016, where a guy blew up. He opened fire he had a rifle and a pistol. He killed 49. He wounded 58.
So,
and again, he was a young Muslim.
So, does the gay community fear? For instance, would they go to? Supposing you were gay in Bradford, for instance, right? Huge Muslim population.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in East London, for instance.
But I would not want to live in Whitechapel because I'm an obvious gay, right? I've never been able to hide it.
Yeah.
Everybody already knew long before I knew.
Yeah.
So, and even where I live in South London,
Yeah.
sometimes I get homophobic abuse, but you just kind
Do
of...
you?
Well, yeah, and it's actually, I hadn't...
How does that show itself? When you say
Well, they
homophobic
just
abuse?
shout words at you.
Seriously?
Yeah. And I hadn't had it for quite a while, but a few weeks ago, and again, it was a teenager. So he said the F word. I don't know if you can say it online.
No.
But it's like, especially these younger ones, they have no sense of
No filter.
shame or boundaries or respect or whatever. So there is a threat, obviously, here. They're specifically targeting gay men, but as Jean Hatchett pointed out earlier, it's not just gay men. They're going for women. They're going for Jewish people. Because it's all become like a package holiday. So going back to Pride.
Good point.
I went to Pride in London just a few weeks ago because I do underground street journalism. So I have conversations and I'm like, what the hell is going on with this movement?
Yep.
Is this supposed to be my community? Because a lot of stuff that I saw there absolutely freaked me out. And
Go on. What was it freaked you out?
Quite a few things. So first of all, I'm like, why are there so many children here? And I'm talking toddlers and babies. So you have a parade. There was 35,000 people taking part in the parade, like all different groups. But some of them are men dressed in leather, fetish outfits with their bums hanging out, and they've got these dog masks on, like they're called pups. So, and have you heard of these things?
I did see on the Berlin one of these guys there with his backside hanging out of his thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is happening more and more. So when you look at the early gay rights movement, that obviously I wasn't part of, they went out because they didn't want to be discriminated against. They didn't want homosexuality to be illegal. Now we're in a place where, and those are kind of cute, but the ones that are on the parade, they have these leather masks, so it's very.
And why do they wear this stuff?
I have no. I don't get it.
Is that
yes,
part
like that?
Is that part of their sexuality? Is it?
Well, I mean,
without going into the detail of it.
You're either gay, bi, or straight. Although again, the whole Pride movement is now railing against that very idea because they're telling me that lesbians can have penises and that gay men can have vaginas, and I'm like, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I won't be going down a lady garden. But
hey, I like that.
Why do you have to say it? This is the point that we're at. So you ask what sort of upset me on the day. You've got these men in jock straps or just complete leather outfits. They're hiding their faces also. Some of them are actually straight, by the way. They're not necessarily gay.
Well, why are they coming? Why are they going to the Pride?
Because you get to do it out in public. And for some, that's part of the thrill. But while they're doing that, you've got a dad with a toddler on his shoulders, and she's waving at them, holding a little pride flag. So, and I've got all this on camera. There was so many men in miniskirts that I saw. So you've got these bearded blokes, tall bearded bloke with a tiny miniskirt. Okay, I think that's weird. He's standing there, but right behind him, and I only saw this as I was editing my footage, because there's so much that you don't see on the day, There's apparently 1.5 million people there. He stood there, and I just filmed him going, oh, another, creepy guy in a miniskirt. Right behind him was a toddler on the ground reading a picture book. So the picture book was on the ground and the child is leaning forward to look at the picture book. All he had to do was look up, and he's looking right up that man's skirt, who may not have been wearing any underwear. So what I don't understand is, why are we mixing that with children, and what sort of safeguarding concerns are there around that? That was one thing.
Right.
The other thing is how so many young girls, particularly girls, are now sucked into this identity, gender. Can I say bullshit?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're draped in these flags, you know, the non-binary flag or the pansexual flag. And it's like, so I interview them, right? Because I want to know why you're here.
sure.
And I'm just being friendly and nice because I don't want to upset them.
Yeah.
And for some, it's their first pride. But they are walking around. One had a mask, an animal mask, because she thinks she's a fox and a wolf and a dog at the same time. So she identifies as, it's called Therian. So if you're Therian, you think that you're not actually human.
And were they being serious about
Yes, but see, a lot of them are autistic.
that? Right.
So a lot of what I would say...
So is autism caught up in this adopting
hugely.
Yes. Some kind of animal behavior?
And also for the adults. So I did speak to some of the... Because we have the pups, but you also have furries. So furries are people who dress up in animal costumes that are much more elaborate than the leather ones.
Right.
So the leather ones is a very specific sort of look and fetishy leather feel. But the furries is huge masks, like that big.
This is
furry
for men or
suits.
women?
Both.
Kelvin.
So that's a furry, right? And they spend loads of money on that.
And why do they do that, by the way?
Well, one of the reasons why that appeals to a lot of autistics is because for autistic people, you know, again, there's lots of different degrees of autism.
Indeed, there
It's
is.
Such a spectrum.
In some ways, we're all autistic, aren't we? Right, from beginning to end. You know, I'm talking about, you know, when they talk about that spectrum, now I could almost identify almost anybody in some form, either ADHD, autism.
Or ADD, or I do wonder with many of these things how much of that is just like the new thing within
It is the thing.
psychology and psychiatry.
Go on, you know, carry on. I'm interested in all this.
The masks, quite a few people on the autism spectrum, they struggle with social interactions.
Oh, I see. And by wearing the kit,
They adopt another character, they give it a name, they can be someone else or something else.
Yeah.
So it eases for them going out into the world. I kind of get that if that's where it comes from, right? But the problem is that gets mixed in with the leather fetish pups, with the children wearing these animal masks. And so this girl says to me, I identify as a wolf, and she's dead serious.
And what kind of age was that girl, do you think?
I think she was 15 or 16.
Really? Intelligent, do you think, or
Well, I only
challenged?
spoke to her for about 5 minutes, but...
Well, you get a drift of it. Was she bright
I
enough?
just thought she's just so young, and they'd buy... But also last year at Brighton Pride, I saw a couple of kids, and they were maybe 10, and they were crawling around on the grass. So a friend of mine just went up, what are you doing? She's just quite straightforward and innocent that way. And these kids were like, they were so happy to talk to us about how they think they are Therian as well, because they're seeing this in the classroom, right? There's one girl who's 10, maybe she's awkward, maybe she's a misfit, but now she's a Therian, so now she has a special identity. Then her friends jump on it. And the two mums were there, and they all had their pronoun badges on, because all this is lumped in together with the stupid, oh, men can be women, women can be men stuff. So I had a chat with these kids, and they were so happy. They were beaming as they were showing me. One gave me her phone, and she said, maybe you are Therian as well. Do a test. So she just got a test up on her phone, and then she said, do the test. And I said, I bet I'm a black cat, a black panther. And they're like, why? I said, because I used to love Janet Jackson, and she had a massive hit with Black Cat, 9 life short days, long nights. So I thought, okay, that's my spirit animal. But the questions were so simplistic.
That everybody was going to come out.
Everybody was going to come out as an animal. And it's like, do you prefer the forest, or do you prefer to be in the water? But there was one question, and like, who made this quiz? Who is feeding this to these kids? One question in there, do you feel uncomfortable in your body? And that's when I go, whoa. Because that's where we get this whole I would say, really dangerous, pernicious bullshit about you might be born in the wrong body. And to go back to your autism question, we know that from the Tavistock JITS clinic, autistic kids were hugely overrepresented, particularly among girls. So about, I think it was 33% or 35% of these girls were on the autism spectrum. And again, no one's naming it. There is an organization called Autistic Evidence in Autism or something like that. So they've just set up to point this out, because there's a reason why you know, in terms of the overall population in the UK that is actually autistic, is tiny. So how come that nearly a third of the girls at JITS, which is now closed down, are autistic? This is mental. Similarly,
can I just ask you then about this idea of these animals and everything? In the march itself, I've been to a march, or I take part in it, but watched a march in Margate. And it must be 10 years, more than 10 years ago now.
Right.
And therefore, there was none of this furry stuff hadn't started. What percentage of the people marching now, is it, I mean, if there's a huge number, is it like 1 or 5%, or is it a growing aspect of a pride?
It's definitely a growing aspect, but what's so worrying about pride is that it's no, if I stand there with a sign saying lesbians don't have penises, I could potentially get attacked. Because that now goes against what you're allowed to say. So at Pride, gays and lesbians can no longer simply defend homosexuality. And that is bonkers. So I've been very vocal about this for the last 6 years, just as Jean Hatchett is doing it from the women's perspective and being in a same-sex relationship herself. Amnesty International, but it's not just people at Pride. We've had Amnesty International UK get on the case. They just released a report early July where they branded gay rights organizations, like one that I'm part of called the Gay Men's Network, a rape shelter set up by J.K. Rowling, and all these women's rights organizations that have formed in the last couple of years and basically saying no to all this gender madness. We've been branded in a report as anti-rights, not even anti-trans, anti-rights. And that's Amnesty International UK. That's
dangerous, that.
Which is obviously part of Amnesty International Global, which is one of the biggest, most well-respected NGOs in the entire world. So to have that weight, they're throwing their clout around. Like, and I interviewed the granddaughter of one of the co-founders of Amnesty last Thursday. So that interview just went live on Sunday. Go to my channel, Mr. Menno on YouTube.
So do that.
She has a unique insight because Sean McBride was her grandfather. So she knows, but also her great-grandmother was in prison, was a prisoner of conscience. Her great-grandfather was chief of staff for the IRA back in the day. So he knows a thing or two about, you know, political prisoners and all that kind of stuff. So there's that whole history that led to Amnesty being founded. And now Amnesty has turned into the very thing that they were fighting against, where they've now decided that rape shelters and gay people and women who basically say sex is a thing and sex is real, we are now the enemy. And that's blown up. Thankfully, J.K. Rowling has said, right, anybody who wants to sue the fuckers, I'm here. So, and Barrett's Place, is her rape shelter is definitely going to go for that.
So pride is a massive thing, isn't it? I mean,
it is huge.
It's huge because the thing, I must have been the only guy there, or only guy watching who didn't have a pink cowboy hat and blowing a whistle. I mean,
you look fabulous in one.
It was just, there weren't any left. So, you know, it was a kind of joyous and short experience, to be honest. It wasn't big. But what does the London Pride look like? Are there tens of hundreds of thousands turning up?
Well, 35,000 people just taking part in the parade. So they are the ones marching. And there were 1.5 million people attending, apparently. And last Saturday, I was at Trans Pride London, which they said...
Trans Pride London.
Right, so that's...
Now, what does that... how does that differ?
Right. Well, this is an interesting question because if gay people or lesbians want something for themselves, we get called bigots, Nazis, transphobes. But if they want something for themselves, it's absolutely fine. So trans pride, it's trans plus pride, right? And that plus hides, I don't know what it hides, but even asking that question gets you labeled a Nazi, which is interesting because I filmed a guy there in a dress, so he thinks he's a woman, and he had a sign that said 90% of pigs in the UK get gassed. Why are TERFs still alive? So TERFs are women
is
who
that
basically,
right?
it's like Gene Hatchett would be
Yeah.
called a TERF, right? So they always throw this Nazi stuff around, and then he uses a sign about gassing. So one of the things that I noticed last year at
Did he
Trans
get arrested?
No,
for
of course,
that?
because they get away with it. It's the same because they don't name the problem. So that's the similarity that we see
When
between.
you see, I presume with the march that size, the police are there in some force.
There was police, but it's like you have a couple of sacred castes in this world, and trans people are one of them. You can't say that, to a trans woman, oh, you're a bloke. I mean, they are. And we know that the Supreme Court ruling says that in, not quite in those terms.
No, but they didn't avoid that answer.
And that's one of the reasons why I went, because I wanted to see, now that the Supreme Court ruling, that was April last year, that basically said, mate, you can be a bloke with a gender recognition certificate, you're still a bloke under the Equality Act. The EHRC guidance is coming into effect on the 5th, that basically tells these blokes, no, you can't use the ladies, and it tells women who think they're men, no, you can't use the gents. So I wanted to see what is there, how are they feeling about that this year?
Mr. Minnow there.
What one's that one?
Yeah, that's that's the guy I filmed.
Who is that?
Oh, that's just some bloke in a dress with that sign about the pigs.
Oh, right.
Why do TERFs still exist? Now, one thing...
I am astonished that the police didn't just come along and ask them to take that down.
But that wasn't the only sign. That somebody else had scribbled, kill J.K. Rowling on something. Or J.K. Rowling is a human rights terrorist. That's a sign. I've got footage of all these things. Fuck TERFs. By the way, this is not an instruction. So there's so much... No TERFs on our turf. That's one of their favourite ones. The only good TERF is a dead TERF.
I'm surprised.
Comment here. Have a look at this, Mr. Minnow.
LGB is about attraction and T is about identity. They're like chalk and cheese. Exactly. But also the T has become absolutely homophobic because they're trying to tell us that lesbians can have penises and that gay men can have vaginas. They run workshops for gay men on how to learn to enjoy female genitalia.
Is that true?
And this has been happening for years. And it's the likes of Amnesty and all these other, and Stonewall, that have all taken that side of things. So we've been it's an utter betrayal what they've done in the name of gender identity to the homosexuals.
Okay, so are you an outsider in this discussion?
Completely.
Do you see what I mean?
I've had my gay card revoked, apparently. And like when I was there, some people recognized me and they tried to get security on my case. One guy came up to me and he literally, I was there with Julie Bindel.
Oh yeah.
And,
I read that
journalist.
piece today in the Mail. Very
right,
good.
so we spent some time together on at Trans Pride. So Julie, myself, and a gay guy called Michael, who's a detransitioner. Do you know what that is?
No.
Right, so he thought he was a
It's
woman.
too. Do you know? Much of this is too complicated.
Yeah, that's
for
why a lot of people just go whatever.
To
Yeah.
keep up with, to be honest.
So-
Go on. What is a detransitioner? Don't tell me it's somebody who's had it and now wants it put back on again.
He didn't quite go that far,
Oh, thank
but
God for that.
he thought he was a woman for about 7 years.
Yeah.
He was on estrogen for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then he went, actually, I'm just a gay guy. So this movement attracts autistics, but also gay people, lesbians who are struggling with their sexuality.
Yeah.
And they're like, I might be better off. If I was a teenager today, I would absolutely be completely, I'm trans.
What do you mean? And go
I
the
would
full and go full and
Well,
do
I
the
would-
whole lot.
I would have been knocking on the clinic's doors for puberty blockers. I know that for a fact. Just because of it. Anyways.
Okay, so
So
right,
I'm there
well,
with Julie, right? Just to finish
Yeah.
that off. So I'm talking to her and Michael, just the three of us having a chat. We're not causing anyone any trouble. Some guy in what looked like half a burqa, it's bizarre. He was covering his face with like a fishnet hijab or something, and a tiny skirt. And he goes and he starts taking pictures of us, and we're like, oh, okay, we're in a public place, whatever. And then he points at, he didn't say a word. So I had my microphone, so I just went, do you want to have a chat? And he points at me, and he goes,
really,
and these are the be kind people, right? So this whole movement it inverts everything. Men are women, women are men. Love is hate, hate is love. Everything is turned upside down.
Okay, but despite all these odd splinterings that are going on within one movement.
Well, it's a complete schism.
Okay,
but the
even
weird
as a
thing is that so
schism,
many gay
the
men
numbers,
and lesbians go along with it. Yeah,
the numbers have gone up
Yep.
to go to these pride marches,
Yep.
both taking part in them and
Yep.
watching them.
and yeah, because they've captured the culture, and that's been happening for years. You know, it started kind of on Tumblr. A lot of this was hidden in academia, sort of in the 90s, but then in the noughties, you got the internet, you got mobile phones, you got especially a site called Tumblr, where all these young kids started jumping on this, especially the ones who didn't have friends. What do? You sit on your phone all day. They start believing they're another gender. Then all these identities become more micro-identities. So first you're trans, then you're transmasculine, then you're non-binary transmasc, because because they want to be special somehow, right? And first it's just she, her.
Or they've suddenly taken, okay, so one other aspect of it, would it be fair to say that it's hard to say, having had this discussion, that you can have a collective noun for the whole thing, but the gay community, right, gay and lesbian community, do they feel they are now totally free? In a way, do they feel totally free in the sense that they can be whatever they like under any circumstances at all? Do you see what I mean? So you're saying, actually, this is a bad thing. If I had somebody on the other side of the argument here, would they be saying, actually, it's a good thing? All that's happening is, like in all forms, the phone, you go to your own, right?
Yeah.
And that is what's happening. But in this area, you've got one great umbrella, it's called pride. And underneath it, a whole series of people who don't think like you, actually, funnily enough. You are a conservative in this environment.
But, you know, I'm quite sort of left of center politically. I'm quite a heal the world, make it a better place kind of person. And, you know, save the whales, save the pandas. And I'm not even that outspoken about most things. Right. But when it comes to this, and like your question, isn't it fine that we're all under one umbrella? No, because we have an entire movement that is anti-reality. It's all about denying the reality of sex, and that's grouped together with LGBT people. Our sexual orientation and yours as a straight man is based on sex. And now we have an entire movement that says, no, you're a bigot for even acknowledging that. In Australia, lesbians had to go to court to defend the legal recognition of what a lesbian is, and they lost. In the UK, lesbians intervened in the Supreme Court. There's something called the lesbian interveners, and you know that they don't mess about. And they won. So one of the reasons why that ruling was so important for me, and I was in the Supreme Court when it was handed down, is because it simply said sexual orientation is based on sex. And it's like, hallelujah.
So,
because I'm not attracted to an idea in a woman's head. And last year I was at an event which was just for gay men in a forest in the summer.
Kelvin.
hey,
Should have invited Kelvin.
yeah, I'd have been there.
And there was a woman there who identifies as a gay man, and I find that deeply offensive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that she was there, it's that the organizers and everybody else kept love bombing her and affirming her as a man. So that shows me this is a place where you can't speak up.
Right. So are you a minority then? I mean, that's very interesting. That.
Yeah.
So, by the way, why did you meet in a forest, by the way?
Because it was the one chance in the whole year that you could just meet 200 men and, you know, do bear sha-la-la-la in the woods kind of thing.
Is that what happened? Was it like a sex fest in the woods?
Yeah.
Perhaps you should have dug up George Michael. He would have been at home.
It was very much his ethos, you know,
Was
let's
it?
go outside.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you think that kind of a lot of the trans thing, is there an element of cosplay in it?
Well, the whole trans by definition is LARPing and cosplay. That's the essence. So in terms of going back to your questions about the umbrella, I think we need to look at what are all these groups that are being put together on this umbrella. Does it actually fit? And it doesn't, because, and again, Pride showed that really clearly. You've got these young autistic girls that think wearing a furry costume makes them non-human, mixed in with fetishistic men who are there to indulge in their fetish in public, and people, and you can't see their faces. You don't know who's inside that costume. Plus, then you have men who say, we're lesbians. And if an actual lesbian says, no, you're not, she gets booted out.
Yes.
Actually, in Wales, a bunch of lesbians were booted out at a Pride parade a couple of years ago because they had a sign that says, lesbian don't do dick. They were booted out. If Pride is not a place where you can simply state what a homosexual is, where can gays go? Okay.
Do you think that... I didn't realise, by the way. I knew none of this, by the way.
I'm not surprised.
We can tell.
I knew none.
But also, if I talk
I don't
about
know why. I don't know why my puzzlement at this world that I didn't know about should be the subject. I mean, presumably everybody else does know. But are you going to? It looks to me as though the Pride movement has grown.
Yeah, it's exploded.
Despite the fact that there are Mr. Mennos out there.
Yeah, but we see most people who think like me, most gays and lesbians, they stay away.
So you would only go there with your camera and your investigative kind of head on as a journalist.
To also see how far has this drifted from what Pride used to be, and how welcome am I still here at this event. There were some guys that came up to me and said, love your work, love your videos, but they all did it off camera because they didn't want to be outed.
Okay, what about...
What about
Main
actual
Street?
gays are back in the closet.
Okay, right, that's a very, very interesting point. So...
And an MP like Kay Osborne, we can't rely on her because she's completely banging that woo-woo drum, as I call it.
Right. Actually, that Osborne thing, which is one of the reasons we came here, and we'll probably have to wrap that. This has been, by the way, by 1,000 miles the most interesting discussion. You do live and learn. Very interesting about autism and the reasons for that. So Miss Osborne decides, instead of attacking the Muslim movement, the Muslim chap for killing and injuring another 29. She decides to attack GB News and also...
Look over there! Look over there!
Yeah. What? And I didn't know anything about her. She has a partner. They have 2 children between them.
She knows exactly what a woman is.
Yeah. So why? So that, when you become an MP, that's an important source of power in which the constituents are looking to you to be able to solve their various issues or whatever. It's quite clear she's taken this power and actually manipulated the argument in order to keep herself on side with the very people that she's marching in Pride with.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have thought? Having had this discussion, I'm absolutely convinced she's doing it for herself.
Yeah.
It's shocking. Mr. Menno, you will be back. You will be back. There's plenty to talk about. Whenever you feel that there is something which there is a conflict within what is a huge community in this country, right, which I think is actually strangely well represented now, whereas it was totally unrepresented. I mean, you might argue...
but it's gone too far. It's like a runaway train. And when the gay things were sorted, like gay marriage and stuff like that, a lot of these organizations like Stonewall went, oh, what the fuck? What do we do now? We need a cause. And instead of, for example, looking at homophobia in places like Iran, where, by the way, if you're a gay man, you get, there's the death penalty for homosexuality. Gay men get hanged there. But trans people get their surgeries funded by the state. So this is a very clear...
I didn't know that.
They're basically, and that's why gay men sometimes go down that path just to survive. And I spoke to one of them, this always upsets me. I spoke to one of them in London who came up to me because I was there, he knows my work. So, and there's a video about it on my channel. So the only reason he did that is to survive.
That is terrible.
That's why the trans movement, in my opinion, is absolutely homophobic because it preys on guys like that. And it preys, and I use the word praise, I don't use that lightly, because that's absolutely what it does. It takes these very vulnerable gays, lesbians who are struggling, they don't fit in, and the autistics, and they're like, yeah, come here. You can be your true self. You can be your authentic self. It is so sinister. And it gets pushed by Stonewall. It gets pushed by MPs like Kay Osborne. It gets pushed by Amnesty. All the NGOs, all the institutions, all captured. And I'm one of the few people that's sort of trying to go, hang on a second. And even last year at Brighton Pride, and then I'll wrap up, sorry, because I've been talking for much longer than we planned. There was a group called Human Gay Male, and so that's for gay men who are just like, ugh, Pride, had enough, can we have an alternative, please? So they organized a meeting in a pub. Trans activists found out, they contacted the pub, and the pub basically said, you're not welcome here, Mr. Gay. So the actual gays who wanted to get away from Pride weren't even allowed to get together in a pub. So we're now taking them to court.
Well, Ms. Minow, it's very nice to meet you. Very upsetting story from Iran. Thank you for sharing that. And also thank you for your time as well. That has been a compelling conversation.
Your channel, Mr. Menno, and what do you do on YouTube?
Yeah.
Could you let everyone know, please?
Okay, so on YouTube it's Mr. Menno, MrMenno, Mr. Menno on YouTube. And on Twitter it's Mr. Menno Tweets.
Yeah, you got that.
We got that.
And I was banned from Twitter for 2 years for saying that gay men can't give birth. But then Elon took over.
Thank God for it. Thank God for Elon. Okay, I've got to go. Got to go. See you guys all tomorrow.
Are we just going to finish with Elon here?
But do you see why this makes people think that this man who has all this power, he's the world's richest man, he thinks he has a right to influence our politics? It makes people, it's why, we started this conversation saying superlatives. It's why people loathe you. I mean, some people do loathe you.
Yes, some people do.
But do you understand why? Do you think what you're doing is helpful for Western democracy?
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me. A lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize.